You know, Debbie, another thing I was looking at, I received this in email. I don't think it's a news story, but I like what Jim Corey does with his Law Enforcement Examiner column. I'm not a big fan of Examiner.com, especially all the pop-up ads and how silly and unedited and unprioritized it is. But I like this guy, Jim Corey, whom I don't know, and he wrote something which was largely from other sources, but he organized it well, about Bill Clinton being a pedophile. This was talking about him and Alan Dershowitz. And, you know, basically, Clinton was nailing 15 and 16-year-old girls, to put it in the blunt terms that it really deserves. What's your take? Do you think he was? I mean, where there's smoke, there's fire, no?
I mean, he was hanging out with this billionaire who was farming out these girls, or this one girl was allegedly sleeping with her, and she's suing right now. You know, I guess it's always he said, she said, but in the case of Bill Clinton, the she said usually has a lot of credibility because we know he gets around. He thinks he's the Chief Justice of the Hawaiian Tropic Bikini Contest Court. And he is, I think he's going to be the most entertaining First Lady we ever have if and when Hillary Clinton is elected, because everyone's going to be watching who's he sleeping with next. It's going to be very hard for him to get around unnoticed. I would not be surprised if he had sex with this teenage girl. I wouldn't be surprised, by the way, if Alan Dershowitz did too. I think Alan Dershowitz does protest too much. He's, you know,
absolutely.
Broke, and the story's kind of a little old now. But when it first broke, he was all over the news, denying it, and saying that he wants to sue her and he wants her under oath. But what has happened in his lawsuit? I don't know. Probably nothing.
Has he sued her?
Politically incorrect. I'm sorry?
Has he sued her? I mean, he's not one who avoids the legal process on principle, that's for sure. Has there been a lawsuit?
That is for sure. I don't know if he has. He said he was going to. And I don't think he has. And the thing is, she and her lawyers have played this very smartly, because if you say something in a document that's filed in court, then you have a little bit of immunity. You can't really be sued for defamation for that. It's very difficult. That's why he wants to get her to say it herself outside of legal documents that her lawyers filed. And by the documents were filed was, I don't even think she's suing this billionaire. Objecting, she and her lawyers, to a deal that prosecutors made when Alan Dershowitz was this guy's lawyer, letting him essentially out of the child molestation and rape charges and sexual abuse charges, giving him a very small penalty, something that she opposed. And usually in a criminal case, the prosecutors are going to consult with the victim, and a lot of times they won't they won't give somebody a deal if the victim objects. A lot of times they'll just shove it down the victim's throat. Maybe that's what happened here.
To me, there's just something suspicious, both in Alan Dershowitz. It's as if someone has dirt on him. The way he defends Obama, yet is such a vehement supporter of Israel, it's so clearly inconsistent. It's as if someone has him on a rope, and I can imagine why. And the other thing is, you just can't be on a plane where people are having sex with 15-year-old, 16-year-old girls. I mean, what are you doing on the plane? And don't give me that he's Epstein's lawyer, Epstein, whatever. Because, you know, if he were at a big firm, you know, a big high reputation firm, that would simply not happen. I mean...
That's right. And,
could you imagine that?
I've represented accused child molesters before. I don't hang out with them. I certainly wouldn't go on a plane with them. And if they were continuing to do it, I quit representing them.
Right.
I just think that the whole way that he was palling around with this guy is totally unseemly. And even if he's not guilty of having sex with this girl, he's certainly guilty of hanging out with this guy and palling around with him. And according to the allegations that this woman made, this girl, whatever you would call her, made, she was underage at the time, she claims that Alan Dershowitz's wife and kids went with this billionaire to different vacation locales and so on.
They probably have a family week.
I'm sorry?
He probably pays for a family week somewhere just to, you know, keep everything cool. Come on.
Yeah, but I wouldn't want my family anywhere near
no.
something like this. disgusting to me, and that's the part nobody's making a big deal about. And Alan Dershowitz does get to skate on a lot of the things he does. As you pointed out, he is very pro-Obama, despite the fact that Obama's very anti-Israel, and he claims to be very pro-Israel. He's also, by the way, very critical of religious Christians, even though they are the biggest supporters of Israel in this country, and they're more so than the Jews, and they're a lot of the reason why Congress is so pro-Israel and so on.
Well, yeah.
And if you look at surveys, there was a survey taken of the South, and I'm probably going to put this up on my website soon, but one of the top 10 destinations for travel from the South, and that's largely because of the evangelical Christians, is Israel.
Yeah,
and
but I mean,
very critical of that.
That's not so inconsistent for me, because basically Jews who don't practice Judaism, especially ones who grew up, as I did not, in a fairly religious environment, as I believe Dershowitz did, he certainly was exposed to it at the very least, you know, and you choose not to practice Judaism, you tend not to like Christians a lot, and you tend to minimize the Muslim threat, which Dershowitz does not, and to make Christians, you tend not to think highly of Christians in that particular situation. So that doesn't shock me. That's not too indicative, but there's just something a little creepy about Dershowitz. And I don't know if it's just the way he talked about how he likes going to the nude beaches in Martha's Vineyard. There's just something, you know, I don't know, a little creepy about him that I can sense. Can't prove anything, but that's just my opinion. But to me, he just strikes me as someone who would take advantage of the situation. And I appreciate, by the way, that you don't use the word pedophile, because it's really not pedophilia in this particular case. It's illegal. It's with someone underage. But pedophilia is a real issue with some people. But that's not the case with these 15 and 16-year-old girls, unless they were like...
Well, listen, some of these girls do dress very provocatively and behave provocatively, but still, if you're an adult, and Alan Dershowitz is a much older adult,
right?
Come on, behave and take some responsibility, and you know you shouldn't act that way. And
I agree with that. I'm just saying it's not
deplorable.
I'm just saying it's not pedophilia if the girls are capable of reproducing, et cetera, et cetera. It's not Japan before World War II, where I think girls generally, on average, got their period like around 16, 17 because they had such a low-fat fish diet. But that's a nutrition issue, and that's a whole other matter. Well, no, that's very important, because that's another issue altogether. But that's a forks over knives type thing, and cancer related to that, and that's totally off topic. But that's another matter altogether. All right, anything else? I mean, we started talking about Bill Clinton, but I think the real issue is Alan Dershowitz. Is he a sleaze? Can we take him seriously? Because he's so loud. I mean, the synagogue I often go to in Maryland, Beth DeFilla just hosted him for the big event. And
I think he is a sleazebag. I'll tell you something. I was on Politically Incorrect with him back in 1999, and that guy gave me the creeps. There's something weird about him, and he also defended O.J. Simpson. He was on the O.J. Simpson team. He also defended Bill Clinton during the impeachment.
Right, very vehemently.
I'm sorry?
Very vehemently, and that was not a criminal matter, which you can say O.J. Simpson was.
I think it's very creepy to go traveling around with some guy just because he's a billionaire when he's having sex with underage girls. I think that guy is creepy and disgusting.
Yeah. He has an office.
And if you hang out with him, so are you.
You can meet with clients in an office. It's just that simple.
But, and by the way, there are other things where when you talk about pedophilia, or when you talk about, you said, well, it's not pedophilia, but it may be illegal. True. I think, though, that, like, for example, and I do believe that a lot of these girls who are, predators in some cases and so on, I think Monica Lewinsky has skated, by the way, a lot with conservatives. A lot of conservatives say, the Clintons demonized her and she skated, and she's being unfairly blamed and so on. And that is true to some extent. However, when I had that affair with Bill Clinton, she was something like 21 years old, I think. She was an adult. She knew what she was doing.
Yeah.
She knew he was married. She was stamping her thong at him in the White House in the Oval Office. I mean, she bears some responsibility. And I do think that in a lot of these cases, some of the people do bear responsibility, especially when they're over age 18 and they, are adults legally. And I think,
right.
Yes, there was a power imbalance. He was a president, she was an intern, and so he is to blame for that. But she is not blameless.
Yeah, I mean, she was a fat loser, basically, who was starstruck.
Yeah.
I don't blame her completely, and nor for talking about it, because she was very excited. She didn't have that much going on for her, and this is, like, something she could have never expected.
She's a celebrity giving TED Talks and being a contributing editor at Vanity Fair.
Well, she's not a happy person, we know that.
Who've given oral sex get that to happen to them in exchange.
Hey, Divine Brown did pretty well, and she wasn't even the least bit good looking. That was Hugh Grant's. But, with the whole age thing, I like pointing out, I'm a big fan of Gone with the Wind, both the book and the movie. Scarlett was 16 when she got married the first time to the guy who got killed in the Civil War. Can't even remember his name.
Ashley, what's his name, Ashley?
No, Ashley, she never married. That's not one of the 3 guys she married. She never married him. But we just talked about it. Remember, we were talking about Herman Wouk because Melanie is going to be 99 on July 1st, Olivia de Havilland. We're talking about celebrities who are about to reach 100. And that's interesting because everyone else in Gone with the Wind, significant, died decades ago. But but Scarlett, the main character, was 16 when she got married. That was normal. Teenagehood is a whole new concept in the last century. There was no teenagehood. You grew up, you hit puberty, and you went to work, or you started a family of your own. That's how it used to be. We didn't have such long lifetimes. So that's all I'm saying.
Nowadays, but things have changed. I mean, nowadays people who get married at 16 and have children are generally people who are not educated, and usually the marriage never comes or it follows the having the kids nowadays. But
Sometimes
those are generally people from the underclass. They're uneducated. They're not. They don't have any class to speak of. I mean, Eminem's mother, for example, Eminem, Marshall Mathers, his mother, I think she was 15 or 16 when she had him.
Yeah.
And her mother, it was the same thing.
Right. I'm just saying, but if you're, if you're not going to college, if you're not going to high school, if you're actually working for a living, you're in your teenage years, why not start a family early? Especially if you're in an agricultural situation like most people mostly were 100 years ago. It totally makes sense.
I think the thing is that back in those days, people lived a lot, or they died a lot younger. The lifespan was much shorter, and people were much more mature at that age.
Well, that's for sure.
Look at a 16-year-old, and most 16-year-olds are children. They behave like children. They don't act responsibly. A big part of that is our culture and the way we've basically allowed kids to become slackers and not force them to become responsible, productive adults once they turn 18, or at least once they graduate from college. I think that's a big part of it, but it has changed.
Okay. Well, we're well off the topic, and I think we come to agree that Alan Dershowitz is probably a sleazebag, and
very creepy.
Bill Clinton is Bill Clinton. You're talking from personal experience. Mine is just from observation on TV, etc. But I think we see it eye to eye, and I'm guessing a lot of people agree with us, and we'll see when we see what people write as comments, maybe on your website, debbieschlussel.com, and maybe on this YouTube video, because the comments section is always a lot of fun. All right, Debbie, thanks.
Thank you.